Hey folks, here at OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the BeGrit wireless Bluetooth speaker as well as sound machine. This is a white noise sound machine because it includes a microSD card that's loaded with a few tracks which should help you relax and sleep better. So it's kind of an interesting, almost novelty twist to a rather portable Bluetooth speaker by adding that secondary functionality. The speaker itself has a pretty generic design, and it's also sold on Amazon by several other vendors, and the packaging itself is simple enough. You have just an image of what the speaker looks like. It comes in orange, green, and this cyan blue model, and there's some basic info as well about the unit on the very back, but that's basically it. The retail price for this, the N10, is roughly $25 depending on where you look. The BeGrit version is slightly more expensive at under $35 just because it adds that SD card and built-in sound machine functionality. But otherwise, it can play, again, music directly if you load it into the micro SD card. There's also an auxiliary port if you don't want to use wireless Bluetooth when listening to music. And there's also a FM radio function on here as well, so you can listen to radio if you want to. And it charges via a standard micro USB port. It takes about 2 hours to complete, and then the battery life is rated at around 7 hours, which is quite good for a super small speaker. This is a stereo speaker, so it's quite impressive in that sense. The front is actually made out of metal, so it feels pretty good, and the sides are made of the soft touch material, which prevents any scratching and also makes it easier to grip and hold, and it doesn't really slide around on a surface or a desk. It also includes a handy lanyard when you are traveling or moving around. The battery is completely self-contained and cannot be removed. The very top features access and controls with the play-pause key as well as an answer-reject call key, because there is also a microphone built onto here, so you can place speakerphone calls when connected to an Android or iOS smartphone. This microphone on here is noise cancelling, which means that it will reduce background sounds even if you are in a noisier environment, which is good to see. There's also dedicated controls for the volume as well as skip tracks, and these are all pretty tactile. Even though they are completely flush with the surface, we wish it was slightly more raised. On the back, there's access to the aforementioned 3.5mm audio out. There is the SD card that is pre-installed the tracks. You definitely need this if you want to use the sound machine function. There is also a 2.0 USB socket, which allows you to plug in a thumb drive. If you have it loaded with MP3 tracks, it can play back music that way as well. So kind of unique. This is a feature we don't tend to see a lot of. There's also an exposed micro USB cable for charging and a dedicated power on-off switch. This is not a waterproof or sweatproof, rainproof speaker of any kind, so you have to keep this, I guess, dry. And so it's more meant for taking with you on vacation, or also meant for bedside listening if you are using the sound machine. So you can see here that the BeGrit version, which includes the SD card, is a pretty small 128 megabytes. So you're not getting too much added value there, except for what's enough for the tracks. We're going to power this thing on now.
Music play mode.
So again, there is the ability for you to cycle through the various sounds. If we pause the music for a second, I'm going to briefly discuss, I guess, some of the elements of the speaker. There's an LED light, as you can see on the front, which will flash red and blue if you are pairing to Bluetooth. In order to start the Bluetooth functionality, however, you have to first remove the SD card, or you can tap on the play pause key for a few seconds to start the pairing automatically. But if no card or no thumb drive is detected, it will automatically go into the Bluetooth mode, and you can also toggle back and forth between the FM radio mode. The antenna is integrated. You don't need to plug in any other wires or anything like that. As you can hear, there's also voice guided prompts, but unfortunately that can't be turned off. It seems a little bit annoying at sometimes, but that's something that the company could work on in a second generation model, having the ability to turn that on or off. So playing back these sound machine tracks, you can hear that there is going to be a nature track, there's going to be a creek or a running water, rainfall, as well as the static, which is, again, a staple for these sound machines. So let's listen for a bit. And after the tracks are finished, they loop continuously and seamlessly, so you don't really hear it going back and forth. So it is a pretty natural process. You can change the volume quite easily and skip tracks quite easily, and it does seem to work as far as the quality and the volume is concerned. Alright, next let's transition into the Bluetooth speaker functionality. Connecting to an audio source using Bluetooth is quite simple. You can see that the blue light that isn't flashing means that we have been successfully connected, and the name of the speaker is just the M10. It takes a few seconds to complete. There's no extra fancy features like tap to pair with NFC or anything like that, so it's pretty simple and straightforward. I'm going to play back a track now. And for a quick size comparison, this is indeed quite a compact Bluetooth speaker. Alright, so hopefully this gives you an idea of what the audio experience is like on this M10 BeGrit Bluetooth speaker, which is to say it's relatively good. It produced more clear and crisp audio than I expected. It's not as muddy as some other small speakers that I've seen lately, which is a good sign. The bass, a little bit lacking. It could pack a larger thump, and it seems to be largely eliminated on this particular module. There isn't a passive radiator, there isn't a subwoofer, so nothing like that. Bass heads, rock heads might not be too pleased, but it does a good job for electronic music as well as for pop music, and that's for sure. As far as cranking up the volume all the way, it can fill up small spaces quite easily, so good perhaps for traveling because it is so compact and small. And at the same time, it produces, again, pretty good sounds in the higher frequencies as well. Not the best either for audiophiles, I would say. There's not too much of a static in the background, but again, it doesn't produce a super rich tone either, even though the sound is quite natural and clean sounding, which is good. So at the end of the day, the BeGrit N10 is quite an interesting Bluetooth speaker. It is something that packs in many features. FM radio, it's a sound machine, but that's really just an SD card loaded with 4 tracks that keep on looping. But it does show off the capabilities of this thing, and that addition of a USB port is also something you don't see a lot. Overall battery life is good, audio quality is good for the price point, and it remains a fairly competitive design. It's rugged, and at the same time, it does have more features, it seems like, than many of the competition. There are still areas that the company could work on. For instance, the sound quality could pack heftier punch. In terms of bass, that's something that BeGrit needs to incorporate into their future designs, and also the buttons themselves could be more raised so they're easier to press. But all in all, a good first attempt. To check out more details about the M10 Bluetooth speaker, you can read our full written review. But this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Review.